Good afternoon and welcome to the University of Michigan School of Social Work MSW information session. I'm pleased that you're joining me today. My name is Erin Zimmer. I am the Director for Student Services, and I'll be running our session today. And I'm joined by Cerise Carrington. She is our Financial Aid Admissions and Student Services Officer in the School of Social Work. As I'm talking today and presenting the information, Cerise will be on to answer your questions through our questions box. So you'll see there on your dashboard, the questions box. You can send your question in. We find that it's really helpful for students to be able to see each other's questions. So Cerise will be responding to all so you can see the question and answer. In that format, your name is not shown, so there still is a good amount of privacy there. But if you happen to have a question that you just want Cerise to respond only to you, you can type private right in front of the question and she'll make sure that just you receive an answer to that. But again, usually if someone has a question, others are probably thinking it too and might be interested in seeing the answer. So you'll see that scrolling. We are recording the session for today, so all registrants will be getting an email following the session with the recording, so you can go back to it. I'll be covering a lot of information today. I know that it's a lot to absorb and sort of think through. So please know that following today, we are more than happy to reach out to you. You're welcome to connect with us through a variety of means. I'll talk about those toward the end, but don't feel like this is the one and only way you have to gather information about our program. We have a lot of new options, and so we know that that's a little bit overwhelming sometimes to think through what might make the best sense for your situation. So with today's session, what I'll be doing is talking us through the MSW program options, the curriculum, the field placement, different pathways, different time frames for how you might complete the program. So there's a lot of content there. Then we'll transition and talk about the application process, how we evaluate applications, what you'll need to do to apply and when you should apply. I'll talk about funding and financial aid. I know that's a huge part of the consideration of going into an MSW program. And then we'll try to leave some time today also for questions. Again, you don't have to save your questions toward the end, but if you'd like to just listen and save them toward the end, that's certainly fine as well. So I'm going to dig in since we've got a lot of content to cover and start off talking about the MSW program itself. So our MSW program is a specialized program, meaning that students will focus in on a particular area of the field to devote a more intensive focus in that particular area. So students will choose a pathway. On your application, you'll let us know a pathway or perhaps more than one pathway of interest that you have. This is not your formal declaration. This is not set in stone. Your admission is not based upon this. Your pathway will get solidified when you apply for your field placement because that will be tied to your pathway. So you've got some time. It is recommended that you learn as much as you can about the pathways and try to be in the best fit possible. But changes can be made. And again, we're happy to talk you through. So you can see we have 8 different pathways to choose from. Know also that in an MSW curriculum, you are covering foundational content to expose you to the different levels of social work intervention. That would be true for everyone unless they have a Bachelor of Social Work degree. But if you have a BSW, then your BSW will cover that foundation as well before you enter our program. And in your pathway, you'll have courses focused in on that pathway, but they also focus in on different levels because we know that social workers make change and affect change for socially and economically disadvantaged populations, but they do it in a variety of ways, from a direct practice to more macro-oriented work. And often someone's career path spans those. So you will focus in while you're in an MSW program, and obviously that positions you for a career path, potentially licensure, but it's not set in stone. our students, our alumni transition quite a lot and can. That's the beauty of an MSW degree, that they really can move around a lot in their career paths. So I'll talk about each one of these different pathways right now, talk a little bit more. So community change is one of our pathways. This is considered a macro type of social work. If you're interested in learning how do you mobilize communities for social action, how do you enter communities respectfully, how do you get investment from key stakeholders in the community to make the change, and most importantly, how do you understand the strengths of a community? Social work's ideology, kind of fundamental ideology, really is focused in on the strengths of an individual, of a community, of an organization in order to make its intervention. So if you're excited at working at that level, I do think the community change concentration, it's macro, but you still have a lot of contact with the group, the people, the organization that you're working with. So those are some job titles that might fall in line. Obviously, we talked about community organizer, project manager. You might be somebody who is working on a college campus. An example might be an office that looks at diversity, equity, inclusion issues, or other social justice programming on campus. And you can see the different kind of field opportunities can happen in a wide variety of settings that are focused on advocacy, health, environmental justice, but you're interested in working at that particular level. We have a global social work practice. If someone is interested in really working with immigrant populations, refugees, political asylees, and maybe you want to do direct practice work with this population, or perhaps you are wanting to do more macro-oriented work connected to these issues for this population, that is a possibility for you. So our students might work domestically around these issues. They might end up working abroad, and that can happen in the MSW program and also when they're in their career as well. So you can see some different paths: human rights advocate, health educator. Again, some might work on a college campus setting, supporting students in these interests. There are many different jobs actually in higher education where the social work skill set is relevant and helpful as well. So global social work's an option. Interpersonal practice and integrated health, mental health, and substance abuse is actually our most popular pathway. So if you're somebody thinking about doing direct practice work, maybe you want to be quote unquote clinical social worker, you want to do therapeutic work, and a variety of topics fall here. You could be doing mental health work, you could be interested in being a medical social worker, working on issues of substance abuse. These issues are very intertwined, and so it's good to have a skill set to be able to work across issues and paths. And unfortunately, a lot of the client population you work with will their issues will span, for example, substance abuse and mental health. Those are often interconnected, but these are some job titles that you might fall under. You could be interested in working with a variety of age groups, from children all the way to older adults. But if you want to really hone in specifically on the health, mental health, substance abuse connected to that population, that's what I would recommend. Management and leadership is a good fit for somebody who's interested in kind of the behind the scenes work within a nonprofit. So maybe you want to run a program, a social service program. Maybe you want to run the nonprofit organization, be the executive director or CEO of a nonprofit. It's really important that we have individuals in all the different levels that understand social justice issues and the impact made. Obviously, if you're making fiscal decisions, hiring decisions, programmatic decisions, those are important to how the service is actually provided. And so we have students that will come to learn that skill set as well. And again, a wide range of job titles. Some people hone in on the funding issues, like doing grant writing and managing grants. Other people are directors. Some may manage volunteers, different aspects like that. And management and leadership work happens in pretty much all of the social work realms, from schools to hospitals to community mental health organizations to higher ed. Essentially where people are, there are opportunities for social workers to be, and often working on a variety of levels. We do have a policy and political social work pathway. So if you're somebody really passionate about analyzing social welfare policy, creating social welfare policy, maybe you're somebody that is really interested in being involved in campaigns. Maybe you want to help a candidate. Maybe you want to be running for political office so that you can help enact policies that impact and help our most vulnerable populations. This is another option for you here. I think this present environment shows us how important policy is, and how impactful it can be to the groups of people we care about as social workers. So again, this level is very important because it does trickle down to the direct practice work. So we hope to train students in these different areas as well. We have program and evaluation and applied research. So perhaps you're really interested in sort of honing right in on that, the skill set to measure how effective programs are in the implementation they're trying to make, the change they're trying to make. Very important for evidence-based practice and good practice. It's also usually something required by the funders for different programs. So it's a really good skill set to have. Perhaps you're somebody thinking about a PhD in your program or in your future, and so it makes good sense to try to build up your research portfolio and analytical portfolio. This might be the right path for you if you're thinking along those lines. And again, this is a macro area of the field that could be applied to a variety of different human service organizations. And lastly, of the pathways is welfare of children and families, also a very popular pathway in our school. So somebody, again, could be interested in a variety of levels, from direct practice to more macro-oriented work. Maybe they want to work on issues of child welfare, so things like child abuse, neglect, abandonment, foster care, adoption. Maybe someone wants to be a school social worker, work on juvenile justice types of issues. So a lot of them will fall into this particular realm. And again, it could be hospitals, it could be mentoring programs, very specific child welfare agencies, wide variety of settings that you might focus in on with the welfare of children and families. So starting with our Fall 21 cohort, students in our on-campus program will be able to choose more than one pathway. So you'll have a primary pathway and you could have a secondary pathway. So that might make good sense for you if you're between a few of them. You can formally do that. Some students choose to just use electives to take classes in other pathways as well. So there's flexibility with electives, or sometimes how you satisfy degree requirements and how you can kind of blend and really make the program your own. We have almost no two students ever do the exact same set of courses in our program because there's such a wide variety of how you can meet the requirements of your pathway concentration. I'm sorry, I neglected to mention this one, which I will, our older adult pathway. So if you're really passionate about working with or on behalf of older adults, maybe that's working in a senior living community. Maybe it's trying to change policy for older adults. So you're working, at a state capital. Maybe you're working on federal level policy impacting older adults. Again, so you can see that wide range, but a really deep passion and interest in learning about specific needs and needs of older adults. This could be a good option for you as well. All right, so those are our pathways. We have several different ways now where students will complete our program. So I'm going to talk about the on-campus program and the new online program that we're launching this May. Our on-campus program, first I'll talk about it full-time program, which we're about to celebrate our 100th year. So we've been offering this option for a long, long time. The program is a 60 credit hour program, or 45 credits if somebody has advanced standing eligibility. So you can do any pathway if you're doing the full-time MSW on-campus program, so all those pathways I talked about. Advanced standing, to revisit that topic, you have to have a BSW from a CSWE accredited school, and you have to have a 3.5 GPA. And we'll calculate that and let you know if you meet that eligibility. Someone can be admitted into our regular program, but advanced standing allows students to complete in just 45 credits, and usually they would complete in 12 months. So it's pretty quick. It's the fastest option if someone's eligible for that. Our 16-month option is actually our most popular option. So that's a 4-semester program, whereas advanced standing was a 3-semester program. A student would start in September. All the on-campus full-time options start in September or late August in the fall semester. So you'd start in the fall, and then you would graduate the following December. So you just stay consecutively enrolled for 4 semesters. So that one is very popular because it's the quickest option if you do not have a BSW. Our 20-month option is a good option if somebody would like what I think of as kind of a traditional model that undergraduates are often used to, with a fall and winter semester and then the summer break, and then come back and do another fall and winter. You carry the same credit load, honestly, as an advanced standing, a 16-month student. Usually those are about 15 credits a semester, but the difference is having that summer break. So even though it's longer on the calendar, it's the same. It's still a 4-semester program because you have that 4-month break in the middle of your 2 years. We do have part-time options. I'm going to talk about that in the next slide a little bit more in depth. So students will potentially engage in a little bit slower ride through the program. We have students come into our on-campus program who have completed either the Micro Masters certificate through our edX platform, or the Master Track certificate, which is through Coursera. They're very similar programs. That can allow a student to then just have 45 credits, sort of like advanced standing. They have more field requirements though, but they can get done in 12 months. And another time frame that we have is a much longer one, where students complete the Master's International Volunteer Program. So they would actually start our program, do 2 semesters in the MSW program, and then leave for the Peace Corps for 27 months of service, and then return and finish up either 1 or 2 semesters. So it's much longer because you're putting Peace Corps right in the middle, but a good option if you're thinking about doing Peace Corps anyways. Okay, so I mentioned part-time. So this is the on-campus program again. So there are 2 options for part-time. There is a day program or evening and weekends program. So if you want to be part-time, but you can attend some classes during the day, you might want to choose this option. All pathways are possible, so you can choose any pathway concentration. It's open to a student who either needs 60 or 45 credits to complete their degree, and it would be completed over the 7 or 9 semesters, just depending on if you've got to do 45 or 60 credits. So usually students are averaging somewhere between about 5 and 7 credits, which usually looks like a couple of classes, or mostly field placement hours in some of the semesters. The evening weekend program, which would be evenings and Saturdays, I don't think we're going to have Sunday offerings, is exclusive to interpersonal practice concentration. That's what we'll be offering. And then again, it's the same structure where you would have the 45 or 60 credits to complete over 7 or 9 semesters. So same amount of credit that you're averaging. It's just that those classes will be offered in the evening and weekends if somebody is working a lot. These both options are really designed for somebody who is probably working in the field and needs some more flexibility. Okay, so those were the on-campus. And then we're launching our online program in May. We're very excited about it, to be able to offer it. It is a part-time program, so students have to do it on a part-time basis. It's a 7-semester option. And so the online program is really for what I would call advanced learners. So someone either has to have advanced standing eligibility to go into this online program, or they have to be a student who completes the foundation courses for our program through the MicroMasters, which is on edX, or the Master Track, which is on Coursera. And another thing to know is that this program is only focused on interpersonal practice and integrated health, mental health, and substance abuse. So if you are interested in this option, and you're thinking about the MicroMasters or Master Track, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but there is an experience review that we would need to do. There's a little bit higher threshold for experience needed for students entering our program in this way. But this is now an option for students, so we're really excited to be able to do that. So in addition to the pathways that I mentioned earlier, we have special programs. And special programs, what they do is they focus your learning even more into particular areas of the field. They have a field placement component to them often, and they have funding that comes with them. So if you're interested in any of these areas, I really recommend applying for a special program. You see the note there, you do have to be a full-time student. So this would be students in our on-campus residential program that could apply. But we have programs in child welfare. Community-based initiative is a macro-oriented program focused in on Detroit. Detroit Clinical Scholars Program focuses on doing direct practice work with youth in community mental health settings in Detroit. We have the Geriatric Scholarship Program that somebody would focus in on the older adults pathway, but could have a variety of interests and ways of wanting to intervene with that population. The Global Activity Scholarship Program connects with global social work, of course, but is really cool in that it helps support a student to do an internship outside of the country while they're in our program. We have the Integrated Health Scholarship Program that really does focus in on this blend of looking at physical health, mental health issues that individuals have. It's a clinically oriented program or direct practice oriented program. A lot of our students do their internship work in this program at Michigan Medicine. We have a Jewish Communal Leadership Program. If you're a student thinking about or you have an interest in Judaic studies, you want to couple that with the MSW degree, you can do that through this program. It will require that you take an additional 15 credits of Judaic studies coursework. So usually students in this program actually follow the 20-month option, but they are enrolled for 5 semesters instead of 4. But there's some nice funding connected with that. We have a National Community Scholars Program, which allows students to do one of their internships outside of the state of Michigan with community partners, which we've had students in San Francisco, in Chicago, in Denver, in DC, in wide variety of different settings. But again, if you're interested in community-based work, a lot of it is also focused in on kind of youth development and leadership. Maybe that's a good option for you. The New Leaders in African-Centered Social Work special program allows students actually to choose any pathway. But if you are somebody who wants to develop more competency to provide service to African-American population, or maybe you want to do macro-oriented work, but you really want that knowledge base in order to practice well, you might focus in that way. And I mentioned the Masters International Volunteer Program already. That's our collaboration with Peace Corps that students could do. So again, you can look into these if you're thinking about applying to the program, the full-time program, then look for these in the financial aid section of the application. that's where you will apply for them. And most of them require another essay to complete it. We do have students that will pursue dual degrees. So they do the MSW along with another master's degree while they're in school. They've done an assessment of their career path and really find it necessary to pursue multiple degrees. Sometimes they're going to have a position that's very blended. Sometimes they want to use their social work knowledge to inform their practice in another discipline or vice versa. So you can see there we have a combination with the business school, so you get an MBA, the School of Information, Law, Public Health. That's actually our most popular dual degree, the MPH. We team up with Public Policy, Urban Planning, and we have other self-initiated dual degrees as well. So as long as the department at Michigan has a terminal master's degree, so the PhD doesn't have to be the terminal, but other professional schools exist, so you can create a dual degree. So a common one I've seen in the last few years is a master's in higher education. Students are really interested in blending those. So that makes really good sense. Like I was saying earlier, there are a lot of ways that social workers support and help students on campuses. So what you would do if you're interested in these dual degrees is you would apply to each school separately. Make sure you learn all about their admissions criteria as well and process and timing. If you have to take tests for admission, make sure you do that for the other unit. You don't have to take a test for us. And then we'll plan for you to be a dual degree student. And there is cross-counting of classes that happens, so that saves you time and money. So it's possible to do them together. Of course, some students may just be interested in taking classes in other units, maybe not going the full extent of a dual degree. That's certainly possible as well. You'll have electives. You can sometimes satisfy requirements in another unit, or other times maybe you're just going to fulfill elective credits by taking master's classes somewhere else at U of M. And that's certainly possible, and we encourage it, actually. Okay. I've thrown the term around a little bit, field placement. Of your 60 or 45 credit hours, either 14 or 12 of those credits are going to be applied field learning. This is a professional practice oriented degree, so you need to be in the field learning how to practice as a social worker and not just learning in the classroom environment. So it's a very important part. So we have many different field placements, over 500 field sites that we work with. Obviously, we're pretty concentrated in the southeastern Michigan area. We're located in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is in that community, pretty close, about 45 minutes from Detroit, where we're situated. It's a pretty unique location, actually, because we're college town, but then Detroit is pretty close. And then there are also very rural areas, not so far outside of Ann Arbor, too. So there's a variety of kinds of placements that you can have. Most will be in Michigan. If you're in our online program, you can actually have a field placement outside of Michigan, or you're in one of those special programs that does it. But you do have to do your internship inside of the country. So the online program, students cannot do a placement outside of the country. If you are, for example, a student in the on-campus program, in the Global Activity Scholars program, that could be an opportunity where our students are doing work abroad. And that has to do with partnerships that we have established. We're very intentional about where our students are placed and that they are getting appropriate supervision by fully licensed social workers, which you can imagine is tricky to happen outside of the country. They also have to align, your competencies have to align with your pathways. So those are things that we're having to make sure are in place for our students. Students do participate in their field placement selection process. You apply for field with a resume and a goal statement. You talk with our field faculty members who know the agencies and are thinking through field for you. You'll interview for the site to make sure it's going to be a good fit. And the placements are connected with your pathway. Okay, So that was a lot of content about the program. I'm sure you've been sending in questions. I'm going to switch gears here and talk about the application process now. And it's different depending on which program you're thinking about. So first, we're going to talk about the on-campus program application. So the application should be available soon, hopefully by the end of this month. And our first deadline, our early decision deadline, is December 1st. So we really recommend students try to meet that, at least meet that deadline. It is rolling admissions, so we also recommend that you don't necessarily wait that long, that you submit your application before December 1st if you're ready. So we'll give decisions. If you apply by December 1st, we promise that we'll give you a decision by March 1st. Many people will know before that. And if you're hoping for a quick decision, a quicker decision, then apply earlier. March 1st is the final deadline for students who are applying as international applicants or students for our non-baccalaureate admission process. So just have that in your mind. We have many students that actually do apply after December 1st, and that is also fine. It's just a good idea to apply as early in the process as possible because we do start getting full. We have a wait list usually each year. Our final deadline for the on-campus program will be August 1st each year. And we do encourage students in the summer to still apply if they're interested because we have movement in the class, and sometimes someone can be admitted later. And sometimes if there's not space that year, then we might offer them deferred admission for the future. I pulled out here the Master Track and Micro Masters. If you're a student that's going to pursue the Master Track or Micro Masters, there's a level of review that you'll want to do before you actually apply to the program, and potentially before you would purchase that certificate. So the first step is to have your experience screened. We look for extensive human service experience. Usually it's, I would say, a few years of working full-time in something connected to social work, whether it's direct practice or maybe macro-oriented work. But on our website, you'll see there's an online form you can fill out, and that will get sent to us along with your resume for us to review. So you can see, is it even an option for you to enter as a student who's going to have the Master Track or Micro Masters certificate that then reduces your credit load in the program. This is up to the student how comfortable they are. Some students are fine going ahead and going on Coursera or edX and purchasing the certificate without knowing they're admitted to the MSW program. Others want that guarantee first before they pay the money. It's either $2,000 or about $1,200 for the Micro Masters through edX. So up to you what you're comfortable with, and the Micro Masters and Master Track will only serve as a reduction in credits in our program, but not transferable. So, that's one of the reasons why students are often wanting to fully apply to our program and know whether they're in or not. I realize that this is complex, and so this is why we often will have conversations with students individually as well if they want to talk through the time frame and what they're thinking. So that's our on-campus information. With the online program, I mentioned that online students have to be advanced learners. So the same procedure. You would have to either be a Master Track or Micro Master student. So again, you want to have that experience screening, and you want to determine, do you want to apply to the online program and know that you got in before you actually purchase the certificate or not. If you're a student who has advanced standing eligibility, you don't need to do the Master Track or Micro Masters, but we should probably take a look at your GPA to make sure that you're going to have a high enough GPA for advanced standing to enter into that online option. And we encourage students to apply by December 1st. One thing to know about the online program is that we'll actually be admitting students every semester. With the on-campus program, we're only admitting every fall. So once a year, we'll bring students in. Online program, we'll have a fall, winter, and a spring, summer admission. So it's nice if you miss one of them, then you can, just 4 months later, potentially join in. And our first launch of this will be the spring summer semester of 21. Okay, so I have a link there. Depending on how you're entering our program, if it's Master Track or MicroMasters or Advanced Standing, we have some different time frames for you there. So take a peek at it. Usually, like I said, December 1st is still something to keep in mind. That's a lot of time before the May start of the online program, but you may have reason to try to apply sooner than that if you're trying to get a decision before you purchase the Master Track or MicroMaster certificate. Okay, so the review process is the same for both the on-campus and the online program. Same really information that we're going to evaluate. These are the things we look at. I'll talk about each of these in depth. We're looking at your personal characteristics. We're looking at your recommendation letters that you submit to us. We're looking at your supplementary statement, your human services and social work experience, and your academics. All right, so in terms of personal characteristics, we like to have a class that is diverse in a variety of ways. Through your application, through many different parts of it, maybe it's your statement, maybe it's recommenders talking about you, maybe it's your resume, we will find out, do you have bilingual skills in a language where maybe now you can provide service to individuals in that language? Do we see a commitment to social action and advocacy that we should make note of? And these aren't required. These are things that we're just noting of an applicant. Do you come from a geographic region that is less represented in our institution? Obviously, situated where we are in Michigan, we've got a lot of representation of Michigan and the Midwest. So if you're coming from areas outside of that, we might note that. We value success in another field. Maybe you're somebody making a career change. So you bring that perspective with you. That will diversify your thinking potentially in the work that you're doing as a social worker. We look for obviously strong commitment to social work values. And we also note if somebody worked as an undergraduate, maybe that took some time away from volunteer or internship work. Your recommenders are going to tell us about you in terms of personal qualifications like sensitivity, responsiveness in relationships, adaptability, judgment, integrity. So we're noting, how do you score in those areas? Many of our students come with life experiences that have often motivated them for social work practice. Give them knowledge and an understanding of some of these tough social issues. So some of that might come through the statement. Again, so you want to have, you want to have a statement that's really focused in on the professional work you're ready to provide to others. But sometimes, there's some information in the statement about, knowledge or kind of firsthand knowledge that you've gained on a particular issue. We'd like to have students with different interests in the field. Students that are thinking about working with the aging population, working on macro areas, working with those with developmental disabilities, just some examples of, less popular areas within the program. And then interest in multicultural social work and practice. There's some things that we look at as well. So your recommendations are very important. I think of the recommendations sort of like your experience transcript. So it allows us to have hopefully some unbiased feedback about you and your potential to be a social worker working in the field. So you want to gather 3. You can submit them through the online system, or actually register your recommenders and they will submit them through the online system. So they'll rank you in those categories I mentioned. They're going to tell us how long they've known you, how they know you, and hopefully they upload a narrative as well to talk about you as a candidate and why you're a good fit. It's best if you can have people who have evaluated you in the academic realm, so professors or advisors, And then somebody who's supervised some kind of human service experience. So maybe that's a volunteer experience, maybe you had an internship, maybe you worked for or volunteered as part of a student organization that had a really social justice oriented focus. Those are the kinds of things we're looking for with the recommendations. All right. Statement. This is your writing sample for us. We require a 3-page statement. We have specific questions we ask you to answer. They're very connected to the social justice topics that you're interested in. What skills are you interested in learning, and why do you think that you'll be successful in helping vulnerable populations? We have students look at the social work code of ethics. It's a really good exercise for anybody thinking about the profession, so they really understand the values and ideology behind it and make sure you're on board with that. We have you think critically about it and talk about it in the statement. So we're looking at your grammar, the content, and understanding of social work. So it should be a very nice polished piece of writing that you submit to us. I recommend utilizing resources that you have. If you're in school, use your career center or use advisors or people in the field that can give you good feedback. You want to make sure that it's very polished. In social work programs, you write a lot. And so we want to make sure that students have the skill set needed to be able to do the work they'll need to in our program. Also, the statement will be looked at by individuals making decisions on scholarships in some cases. So what you talk about, your interest, your passions, how you talk about populations, what you want to do, also is important for that purpose. Another tip I usually recommend students spend some time on our website looking at the School of Social Work's mission. It's under the About Us section of the website. It helps you understand what we're about, and you really want to do a good job of tying your interest areas and goals and past work to the mission of our school. So that's the statement. Experience will be evaluated through the resume that you submit to us, as well as the information you put in regarding your experience into the actual application. You'll type it in. So we look at, was it a paid experience? Was it volunteer? Was it internship experience? So we'll evaluate all of that. We have students with a wide variety of experiences coming into our program. Many come straight from undergrad and they've got volunteer and internship work. Others are pretty seasoned and have worked in the field for many years. So there's a variety there. Make sure your resume does a really good job of capturing the experience. The resume can absolutely be 2 pages. That's pretty typical for a professional social work resume. So don't feel like you have to squeeze it onto 1 page. We'd rather see the content. Really pull out a section called Human Service Experience. That's what I recommend, so that it's all there. You can just pull it out and we'll evaluate it. Give 3 to 5 bullet points for each of those experiences, so we know what were you doing, who were you serving, how does it connect to social work, what are the skills you're utilizing. We do care about other experiences, so we understand a full picture of how you were spending your time. So if you have, you can have a section called additional experience, where maybe you put things that are not human service related, but we still have an accounting for time and understanding. And you also might think about those non-social work related experiences and what skills and traits and characteristics you actually used that are connected to social work in those positions. Okay, so that's the experience component. And of course, your educational background. We admit students with a variety of undergraduate degrees. You can see the average GPA of admitted students is about a 3.5. We have latitude as an admissions team to certainly admit under that. There's a hard and fast GPA for advanced standing, but we can certainly admit students under that. Is just one piece that we're looking at. And we have students above that GPA as well. Some of our students have already done grad work, and if that's the case, then we certainly will note how they performed in a grad program. We look at your major. Obviously, we're going to hone in more on social science courses and how you did in those, if you have taken those classes, because those are most closely related to social work types of courses. Minimally, someone has to have at least 20 credits of liberal arts coursework across 3 different disciplines. Usually that's pretty easy to satisfy, but if you're concerned, maybe you were in an engineering program or music or theater program, then we can screen your transcript if you're concerned you don't meet that requirement and let you know about it. And in terms of evaluating your education, we also take the feedback from academic recommenders too, and kind of couple that together. So I talked you through all the different aspects. There's obviously a lot that goes into the application. We're very thoughtful about it, and we really do look at every bit of the materials that you're submitting to us. And we try to make as timely a decision as we can. If you're a student that has any concerns about an aspect of your application, a couple things you can do. You could decide to write a little bit about it. There's an additional information section of the application where you can just share some information to explain maybe low grades in a particular semester, maybe a gap in work history, maybe you were a parent, maybe you're time off raising a child and then you returned back, or just if you want to provide any clarification for something you think the committee might wonder about. So that's one option. You can also, or either, choose to do an admissions interview. So you would contact our office once your application's complete. You've submitted everything we need, and let them know you'd like to do an admissions interview. And 2 members of our admissions review team will conduct the interview, gather more information from the questions we ask. We give you certainly room to also ask questions and add anything we don't cover, and that will be something that gets reviewed in addition to the regular materials when your application's reviewed. So it's a good idea. If you think the committee will wonder what's going on, it's better to just address it head on. And so again, we could have conversations with you too about whether or not that would be a good option for you, or how to best address anything you think the committee might wonder about. Okay, so all that gets reviewed, and then we'll send out an admissions decision to you. We do all communications by email, so students should just keep their eyes on their email. Certainly can check in with us if you've got questions or you're wondering about the timeline. You're welcome to do that. Okay, so that's the application process. Financial aid, I know is a very important aspect. So I'll just walk you through how it works in our program. First, I just wanted to clarify for the Master Track and the MicroMasters courses, those are taken either through edX or through Coursera, so there isn't funding connected or available for students. There is a big savings for taking the classes through that platform, so it does help in that way. I do encourage students to actually look through the websites for these platforms. I have heard of some students being able to get a grant through edX, for example, or some support through local credit unions, for example, to help fund this. So you could be resourceful and look into those options. Once a student's in our program, in the MSW program, degree seeking program, they can apply for need and merit-based grants and scholarships. You can see there a high percentage, about 75% of our students receive some form of grant and scholarship aid from us. So if you're interested in being considered, make sure that you apply for this when you apply to our program. Don't wait to get admitted and then do it. A lot of opportunity happens right there at the beginning. So make sure that you go to the financial aid section of the application and complete it. At the graduate level, parent information is not looked at. So that often it results in greater aid eligibility. So you can fill out the form to let us know about, are you wanting to be considered for need or merit? If you're interested in need-based funding, then you'll fill out some more information about your financial history. So we will review you for those grants and scholarships. We are offering also for our part-time students, there will be a grant. When you're a part-time student, the way that the model is for tuition, it actually ends up more expensive over time for the degree than if you were a full-time student. But we're mindful of that, and we'll actually have a grant that equalizes the cost and helps with the cost as well, a percentage of the cost. And you can apply for need and merit-based grants and scholarships as well. So make sure that you review it, talk with us if you have questions, you're confused about it. But early deadline isn't really important for this. I did mention the special programs earlier. So again, a lot of students will apply by December 1st, February 1st. March 1st is usually the cutoff date for most of our special program applications. You have to be a full-time student in our on-campus program in order to be in these programs. You can apply for multiple. So maybe a couple of them sound interesting to you, or more than two. You can apply for them. Just I would say write a targeted essay for each program, so you show a solid interest and demonstration of what you want to do within those programs. We do every year have students who will get selected from multiple programs. They'll have to make a decision which one they're going to pursue, but it's possible that you get offers in more than one. You want to do the FAFSA application, and that will that gives us your official need eligibility, but it's also the way that you're going to apply for direct loans and for work study, which can supplement any grant or scholarship aid that the School of Social Work will give you. Lastly, we get a lot of questions about teaching assistant positions. The University of Michigan does have them. They call them graduate student instructors. Well, just to explain that, graduate student instructors are supporting professors in their courses. So a lot of times at Michigan, if there's a large undergraduate course, there will be a breakout section for the course which graduate student instructors run. And so they help process learning, they'll grade papers, prepare you for exams. They're really, really helpful. So that's one category. There are also graduate student staff assistants, GSSAs, and those students are hired in usually different student support offices around campus, and they do administrative work in those offices. These positions are important because they come with very large funding packages. Usually in the semester that you have one of these positions, you would have a full tuition waiver, health insurance, and a living stipend, a monthly living stipend. So they're very nice. They'll be posted at careers.umich.edu. Usually I would say in the winter semester, really start looking for these positions. You can sign up to get notices when they are posted, and be looking often, apply for anything you're interested in. They will be outside of the School of Social Work. In general, the positions aren't happening in our school, with an exception of our diversity and equity inclusion office. We do have positions there. But anyways, keep your eyes on them. You may not have one your first semester, but you might get one in a subsequent semester. So it's a very nice funding package, which sometimes people couple with aid we're giving them. Other times they may ask that their aid be moved to a different semester because they've got such a nice award through a GSI or GSSA. So I just said a lot about financial aid, but make sure you apply for all possible opportunities early, and then definitely talk with us if you have questions, you're not sure, you're concerned about your funding package. Talking with us earlier rather than later is a good idea. We can let you know if there's anything additional. First of all, we can also just help you understand. Sometimes it's pretty complicated, especially if you're comparing schools, how tuition's charged and how the funding happens is different. So we're happy to help you through that. And also you may be able to secure some additional funds through a re-review process, for example. So that's financial aid at our school. I'm sure you have questions. Hopefully you've been sending them in to Cerise, but we are happy to talk with you following today. There's several different ways to get in touch with us. Of course, you can email us. We're working remotely now. You can call and leave a message and we'll get back with you. One of my favorite features is actually our chat feature on our school's website. So from 9 to 4 Eastern Standard Time, we've got admissions student services representatives available. So you can just shoot your question in and we can answer it for you or get you connected, maybe set a meeting set up if needed. So that's a possibility as well. We appreciate you spending time with us to learn about our program. We will stay on for a few more minutes today just to continue answering the questions that come in. And like I said, we will send you a recording of this session today. If you want to go back and listen to any of the particulars, you can do that. But we appreciate you joining us. We hope you have a very good day.